My name is Nathan Snow, and I've been working in content marketing for startups for about 6 years now. Essentially, content marketing is what you make. All different kinds of media. It's how your customers find you. It's a blog, it's a video, it's social media, it's a banner advertisement on a website, it's a print advertisement in a newspaper. All of these things are content marketing. If your company has done any of them, then you've already started. And more than just what your company makes, it's also how your company becomes what's called a thought leader. The more good, high-quality content you produce, the more value your customer is going to find in it. The more value they find in your blogs and videos, the more they are going to want to come to you with their problems. And the more they come to you with their problems, the more trusted you become. So when you become a thought leader, people go to your website or wherever it is in order to get more information. Something that a lot of startups overlook when they are first starting off with their content marketing is they want to focus on just making as much as possible. That's not really the best strategy that I've found. What I've found is you want to focus first on finding your voice. What a voice is, it's a personality. Think about somebody you know. When you sit and talk to someone, everybody has slightly unique ways of talking. Even myself right now, I use my hands at certain times, I smile at certain times, my voice goes up and down. A company, they have a voice in the content they produce. Again, videos, blogs, whatever it is. All of these different forms of content have a voice. It's seen on a macro scale in the sorts of huge messages that you give across every piece of content. You know, what's your reason for existing? But it's also found in the smaller pieces of content as well. It's found in a mannerism. It's found in whether you use slang or not, whether you use contractions or not. Are you formal or informal? These sorts of aspects are what is going to give your content a consistent voice. And consistency is really the most important part about a voice. If the way you produce content changes across pieces, people aren't going to know whether they're talking to you or not. So if your voice is consistent in this blog and in this video, pretty soon you're going to find that customers will be able to tell your content from other content even without a logo. And that's really the sweet spot that you want to find, because that's how people will become aware of who you are as a brand. And that's one of the huge goals of content marketing. And you can't get there without a consistent voice. I've found that a lot of startups struggle with voice because they're a young company, and like a lot of young people, they don't quite know who they are yet. So they bounce between this voice and that voice, and at the beginning that's okay. You're not supposed to have a consistent voice yet, but it's something that you need to really think about and really focus on right at the beginning of your company, right before you start producing a lot of content, because it's not how much content you produce, it's how you produce it. It's the voice you produce it in. So for a startup, finding that resonant voice should be a priority really early on, because the faster you find it, the faster you're going to be able to have a consistent brand across your media, and that's going to make your company a lot more recognizable. It's not really a question of good or bad, it's a question of resonant or not. When we say resonant, what we really mean is when somebody, not just somebody, when a customer reads your content or watches your content, how do they feel? You want your content to strike an emotional chord in your audience. You want them to read it or watch it and think, this person gets me. This person knows what I'm going through. They understand my problem. Because once a customer identifies with you as a speaker and as a company, you're going to find that they're going to be a lot more willing to listen to your solution to their problem. So that's why finding that resonant voice right at the beginning is important, is because it's going to get your customers on your side a lot faster. If you don't find a resonant voice, then you're going to find your customers ignoring your content. They're going to ignore it because it's not going to be what they want to hear. They're not going to feel like you understand them. Why would you go to somebody for help when they don't understand what your problem is? The better your voice, the more they will want to listen to you. So, how do you go about finding a voice? It's actually a lot of fun, but you have to do it in order. The first thing that you have to do is you have to find out where your product fits in the market. For a lot of startups, that's its own problem, but it's something that you need to tackle before you really jump into content marketing, because your product market fit is going to determine who your customer is. And that is the most important part about a content marketing strategy. You need to target all this content towards your target audience. And if you don't know who your audience is, if you don't know who your customer is, you're not going to be able to find a voice for your content that will be of value or that will help them. So once you find where your product fits in the market and who your audience is, you're going to find it a lot easier to find your voice. Once you have that, once you know who your customer is, how do you find a voice that resonates with them? Do your homework. That's the best way to do it. You gotta find out what that customer is reading right now. What books do they read? What periodicals do they read? What blogs? What videos do they watch? More than that, if you can actually find some of these customers in real life, interview them. Take them out to lunch. Just sit down and have a conversation. Observe what kind of words they use, what kind of slang they use. It's a pretty basic principle. You got to be friends. You can't be friends with somebody unless you know who they are and what they're all about. So do as much research as you can into your customer, and you'll find that when you sit down to write your first piece of content, you'll be able to talk to them like an old friend. And as soon as you reach that level, you're already well on your way to finding a consistent voice and producing really high quality content that's going to be valuable for that specific person. And that's when content marketing really starts to work. A great way to get to finding your voice faster is through something we call split testing. Split testing works really well in like an email campaign, where you say you have this email, it's written in this voice and you think it's good, but then you also have this voice. It's slightly different. It uses a couple different words, different contractions, different tone, and you want to see which one's better. Well, you can split test it, which is you send essentially to the same target audience both of the messages and then just see how they performed. If option A performed better than option B, then you use option A in your next split test and you change option B. And pretty soon you'll find that through a couple months of this sort of back and forth in split testing, you're going to more quickly land on a good resonant voice than you would if you were just kind of blindly throwing out pieces of content and seeing what sticks. Last thing, once you think you've found a voice, you've found your target audience, you've done your research, you've done your split testing for a few months and you think you finally have something that resonates, stick with it. A lot of startups are looking for a really quick sell. Content marketing is a long game. What you got to do is once you find that resonant voice, you got to give it a few months. You got to give it, in my experience, at least 6. Because that's just the amount of time it takes for your content to reach a wide audience. And when it reaches a wide audience, you'll have more data to go from. You'll be able to know, like, nope, this really doesn't resonate. If you change it within 2 months, that content didn't reach enough people to really gather any sort of valuable information for you. You got to give it at least 6 months and you got to keep producing. It's not wasted time, because this content, even if it's written in a voice that doesn't resonate, once you do find your voice, you'll be able to go back and make changes to it. Takes 10 minutes, and you have this awesome backlog of material that you can keep going back to, that's just going to provide more value for your customers. So stick with it. Content marketing, it's a long game, but it's fun. And you get to make things that actually are valuable for your customers, and you get to become a part of their professional life. And that's pretty cool.